All right, everyone, welcome to the Business of Strength podcast. In this episode, Dan and I are going to do a live Q&A. We're going to take some of the best questions from our Business of Strength community and answer them here today. This episode, as always, is brought to you by the Business of Strength, a world leader in business development. You could check out Business of Strength and our mentorship series at www.strengthentrepreneurs.com.
Welcome to the Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym, the podcast for strength entrepreneurs.
All right, so today's episode, gang, is going to be a Q&A format. We're going to answer a whole bunch of questions that were sent to us over the last 2 weeks. We apologize for not being able to get this out to you on Tuesday as we had promised, but our technical supervisor unfortunately had a bad cold and was unable to attend, Mr. Trevor Lang.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
The profit.
That's okay. The profit. We'll take that off his pay at the end of the year. Don't worry. Hey, no bonus for you, T. Okay, so
I do, man.
we're gonna start right with the first question. Dan's gonna read the questions, and we will both do our best to answer. And we got a lot of questions, so we're gonna get right at it today. And let's hit it, Dan.
The first question is from Phil Martson. He's going to be with us in London in January. And he asked, basically, how do you set realistic financial targets that can be broken down into the traction organizer? As opposed to just putting any figure down, especially for the year target, is there a method you would use based on current turnover and so on?
So, Phil, setting projections is kind of a complicated question, and generally, if you would have asked, I think if you would have asked us this question in 2006, we would have just kind of done this and had really no idea. I used to just make shit up, be honestly, and the only thing I really cared about in the very beginning was clients and their yearly client value. So I knew that if I had 10 clients that were paying X amount of dollars a month, and let's just say that for the sake of this argument, their yearly client value was $2,000, that was $20,000. So if I wanted to make $100,000, I knew I needed X amount of clients. So that was a direct kind of cause and effect. How many clients? How much do they pay? What's that dollar value? Now, with a bigger business, lots of employees, lots of overhead and different types of things, and a lot of different moving parts, budgeting and projections become a lot more complicated. And because now, when you're by yourself, and if you're just running like a membership gym, Dan, and you're just like, the only thing you sell are monthly memberships, so it's kind of an easy correlation. I have, couple employees, and maybe some places only have 1 or 2 employees. And if we get to 100 members, we make this. But here, it's a lot more complicated. So a lot of times we'll rely on our accountant to help us with that. And having a great accountant and bookkeeper as part of your, kind of, let's call it that advisory board, and not the advisory board where you're going to meet every week, but, quarterly and yearly, we meet with, our accountant, finance people, and stuff like that. And we go to set up those projections. I literally had a phone call yesterday with our accountant saying, for our fourth quarter meeting, and that's exactly what we're going to do for 2018. So we're going to set some realistic projections. We're going to look at our cash flow. We're going to look at all of our expenses. And we're going to try to find some areas where we can cut back from from spending money. And we're going to try and find some places where there's extra money to, to either buy new equipment. For us, it's, we're going to replace the turf here at the gym. We're going to do a few things in the gym. And we're, obviously we're always looking for top-notch coaches. So at some point in 2018, we want to hire another coach and bring up another coach, and all those things have to be allocated for. So what I would say to you in terms of getting things on your vision traction organization, if you're not exactly sure as to how much cash you have, how much you're making, things like that, one, figure out exactly how much money you're bringing in on a month-to-month basis, right? And since it's already October, I couldn't remember. Since it's already October, you should have the rest of the year. So you should have January through September. So just kind of get an average. Like, okay, we did, 10,000 this month, 10,000 this month, 10,000 this month. So you're in that range, right? If the average of 7-8 months is 10,000 a month, a realistic increase is probably 15%. And that's a good increase. If you were to increase 20 to 25% in a year, that would be a huge year. You'd have an awesome year, especially as you get higher up the ladder. If you're doing $1 million plus and you have a 20% year, that's $200,000. That's a pretty good year.
I think to reinforce what you're saying, a lot of times people will say, I want to do 25% more in business next year,
right,
but they don't know exactly what that looks like. So
correct.
I think most fitness professionals and strength entrepreneurs sell 2 things: monthly memberships, and they sell private
PT,
training. Obviously, you could have front desk sales and things like that. But it's very easy to amortize that over the year and to see exactly what that looks like. So it's very easy. If you made $100,000 last year, well, then you just need to divide how many memberships that you've got, and you need to see how many private training sessions that you've done. Incoming.
We got a call. Block the calls, Trev. Block the calls.
So, that's pretty easy. So you say if you want to do 25% more, well, then we have to do 25 more private training sessions per week, or we need to do 12.5% on the EFT monthly memberships and 12.5% on the PT. Then you need to break down to see where's the weaknesses in my staff, or am I a sole technician? We just talked about
Sure.
Rob Pilger's post. It's like, if you want to do 25% more and you feel like you're personally maxed out, well, it's time to hire on some assistant coaches and some help to help you gain that extra 25%. It's identification of exactly what it looks like, and then it will work backwards from there.
Yeah, now I'll take that one step further too, because Dan's talking about total gross revenue, and it is a lot easier to project total gross revenue. And so let's take our ancillary services out of it here. So let's take the front desk out of it, because you can't predict exactly how many shakes, smoothies, and shirts
like
people
a
are going to buy.
retail
Right.
store.
So you don't know. But we have X amount of members. We do X amount of private trainings and training sessions, and there is an average there. And we run our 2 transformations a year, and there's an average there. And we've done that for a bunch of years, so we should have those numbers. So I know that if I have 100 members paying $200 a month, that equals X. Obviously, if I want to do 25% more, I get 25 more members. That makes it easy. Now, again, as your business grows and you add employees and you add other things, there's a huge difference between gross and net, right? And net revenue is really all that matters at the end of the day, because that's what you're putting in your pocket. And net revenue has a lot to do with what you spend on too, right? Remember, there's only two ways that businesses make money, right? Businesses make money by saving money and by selling some type of product or service. I mean, that's it. I mean, so you either have to sell more products or service, or you have to cut budget somewhere. Like, you have to spend less in other areas. So to give you an example, right, one of the things we did recently is we're converting the entire gym over to LED. We did almost all the gym this year, and in the next couple of weeks, we're having all the overhead bay lights converted to LED. There was an incentive program here with one of the electric companies, and it's going to save us about $450 a month overall. The project cost like $8,000, right? So obviously that cost me 2 years to pay that back, almost, 20 months or something like that. But after that, it's all gravy. So we're saving money. So that's $5,000 a year right back in your pocket. That is an expense taken off of the table. That obviously the utility companies are making millions, so they don't need billions, so they don't need our money. So those are some of the ways that we will budget. Now, setting it up in your Vision Traction Organizer, Phil, what I would do there is just, be realistic. Look at what you have. Look for a 20% increase, right? Budget properly. How many clients do I have? If you have 100 clients, to get 120 next year, to have 20 more clients, that's a very realistic number. If you're doing 50 private sessions a week, right? Go to 60, right? Just get another average, right? And I would much rather you under project than over project and hit your number or crush your number than to over project. So if you told me, hey, we're going to go from 100 members to 200 members next year, I said, well, pump the brakes a little bit, because if you don't hit that number, you're going to be upset. So I'd rather you say, hey, we're going to hit 120 or 125 and crush it and be like, wow, we got to set our number higher next year. Yeah, great, awesome. Because remember, every year you grow, every year it slows. Right, so the higher to the peak you go, the harder it is to crawl. You know what I mean? So
that's a good segue into our next question too here, Joe. It's from Bernardo Charles, Monterrey, Mexico, and he asks. Bernardo's also an alum. I know he's watching. We appreciate you, dude.
What's up, Mexico?
So he's got a 2-part question here.
All right.
The first part is, what's the most effective way to build out a budget? And the second part is, Bernardo has a question about. He has 2 separate investors that are both looking to invest in his business and take control of his business, and he wants to know if he should go the investor route and or go for a partnership route. And then obviously the second part of his question is an effective way to build out his budget. So I think Bernardo's just looking as to, should he get the money from a partnership agreement, or should he get the money from a silent investor who is looking to invest money, take a large control of the business, but not put forth any work hours.
All right. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. All right. So let's just start with the most effective way to build out a budget is to just start super small, right? And make a list of all the things you think you really need and then cut that list in half twice. You know what I mean? And you know, there's been a million times when me and Dan had a wish list of stuff that we wanted for the gym, and just, you know, realistically, we had to cut a lot of things off. You know, would I like to have?
Still do.
Still do. You know, we want to build an entire rehab center, and you know, there's a lot of things on that wish list for that. And but you have to start small and cut it out. You know, so start really small. Get a couple pieces of equipment that you know are going to A, last you a long time, B, going to really add value to your clients and the client experience and the training experience with you, and C, are stuff that you could actually use, that are transportable, that you could move from another gym to another gym, that are going to be something that you can take with you from place to place to place. You know, a lot of places they wind up, you know, if you do a giant build out, let's say you start your first gym and it's 2,000 square feet and it's like a small little training center, right? And you do this incredible build out and you build this beautiful brick wall or you build this beautiful wood wall and things like that. Well, you can't take that with you. So that's stuck. So you just spend $5,000 on something you can't take with you. So I see a lot of people doing stuff like that. You build out these beautiful bathrooms and then 3 years later you want to move to a bigger facility and you spend $50,000 building out a bathroom. So budget smart, budget small. Think about what your demographic needs and what they're really going to use. You know, there's a lot of gyms out there that have very little equipment that are running kick-ass training programs. So that's one. Part two to that question, as far as partnerships, I think me and Dan have covered this a bunch of times, B, and that's basically that our partnership works because we work together, right? And we work really hard at not only our personal friendship and our personal relationship and making sure that we're there for each other, for our families, for our significant others and things like that. You know, I treat Dan's little brother like he's my little brother. I treat his wife like she's my wife. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a lot of mutual respect there. But most importantly, it's that Dan works his ass off and puts in the time. I'm not partnering up with anybody who isn't busting their ass in the gym. I don't care how much money they're giving me. So if you're not busting your ass in the gym, you're not having anything to do with my gym business. Now, if you want a silent investor and they're willing to throw you some money and you work it as a payback, like a percentage, or you know, they get X amount of dollars over a period of years and things like that. It's almost like a loan from the bank. That's a separate thing. Yes, that is okay. You can do things like that. But I'm not making anybody a business partner who isn't working in the business. You know, and even if it's not coaching, it doesn't have to be coaching. If you're maybe it's a businessman and they're going to run the front of the business. They're going to do the sales, the marketing, the POS systems and things like that. And they're going to be the one training all the staff and helping out with all that stuff. That's okay too, because that's a great part of the business that maybe, Bernardo, maybe you don't want to do. Maybe you're the product and you want to focus on training, but they have to be working in the business. You know, I'm not giving up
It can't be money. It can't be money for control. It could be money to make money. I mean, you can. They're definitely. If somebody's going to give you $30,000 and they're expecting $40,000 back, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally fair.
If somebody lends you $100,000 and they want 15% back, and they want $115,000 back after 3 or 4 years, I mean, that's a fair deal. I mean, depending on what you want to do. If you can't get the money from the bank, you know, then that might be something you have to do. But I'm never going to give up business control unless that person's going to be in business with me.
And knowing Bernardo also, and speaking with Bernardo, in terms of looking and trying to find that partnership, it's like, you know, I think that could start very organically where you say, hey, you know what, like, I'm going to hire an employee that might end up becoming a partner one day, or I'm going to hire, you know, a friend that might end up becoming a partner one day. It doesn't need to be right off the jump. I mean, you're still at a point where you're still growing and putting a plan together where you never know where your business partner might pop up. Just have an open mind to it and be willing to grow with somebody else.
And make sure that, as with any business relationship, remember, me and Dan are married, right? And that is as true as it can be. I signed a contract with my wife to be married. I signed a contract with Dan. We make sure that we've outlined our roles and duties, although they get clouded all the time and we do a ton of other stuff, you know what I mean? But we outlined all of our expectations. We outlined all of our roles and duties. We outlined who gets what happens if you die, what happens if I die, what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens, and we've got an operating agreement that's this thick. And that was taken care of literally before we went into business together. And we didn't know shit about business, but we knew that, in order to be cool with each other, and I think and just not have that, not have animosity, not have anybody hanging over us all the time, like Dan not feeling like he got his fair shake or me feeling like Dan's not doing what he's supposed to do and stuff like that, is you work all that crap out up front. Do not go into business with anybody without dotting your I's, crossing your T's, making sure you got all the back end stuff taken care of, and they're going to put in, if they're going to be business partner with you, they're going to put equal amount of work, right? And equal is 50-50, not 60-40, 70-30, none of that bullshit, right?
Okay, next question is from Business of Strength alum. Actually, he's been a guest on this podcast. Is Josh Mason? He actually has a new gym opening in December. He's going from a 1,500 square foot space to a 8,000 square foot space in Wilkes-Barre, PA. We're super pumped for him, and we're hoping to see him in December for his grand opening. So what he asks is, and we've spoken about this before, but I want to answer it again. When opening a new space, what would be a couple must-have items on your list? And do you guys think having showers on site is critical?
Oh, boy. Must-have items in the gym. A really good turf. Don't buy the piece of shit turf that we bought.
Yeah.
I would say, must have mirrors. And this is Jersey. You've got to have a few mirrors. F that CrossFit / nonsense. This is about the training. No, I want to look at myself in the mirror. I would say, they
don't have mirrors, but they're all training in their underpants. How do you explain that?
No, everybody's got a sports bra on and booty shorts, but there's no mirrors. Like, what's the point? So, must-have items, I would say, you don't need a lot. I mean, my first gym was exactly the same as it is now, but we have more fluff. So I would say must-have for a good box gym that's catering to a variety of clientele. You need some type of rig system. You need some type, obviously, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, and things like that. You don't need to go crazy there. There's a lot of great bars and bumper plate systems out there that aren't ridiculous. You don't have to buy Elenco. You don't have to buy any of these heavy, high-end brands. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on
all of our weights used.
Almost all of our plate weights were used, right? A good rig. And I would go, and nowadays, because people are looking for, let's call it that cross-training style, power endurance style, Jim Jones style of training a lot, and, very similar to what we do with our adults. And so I would have, a nice array of rowers, air bikes, and ski ergs to transition people from the racks, from weighted stuff to the cardiovascular equipment in a similar way to what we do here. And I also think nowadays, because of the cachet and what you see a lot of box gyms doing, that having a piece of turf is a really important aspect to most box gyms now. I think people really gravitate towards that. It looks great on from pictures and the perception value of it. And you could build it out cool with lines like a football field, put a logo on it, and do some cool stuff with it. So I think that's critical. A reverse hyper too. Like every good box gym that's teaching people how to lift weights should have a full array of bands for doing traction work and a reverse hyper for keeping people's lower backs in shape. And you were gonna say the showers?
Must. I believe.
Yeah,
that's a
must. You got to have. So I did not have a shower in my first gym, and that's one of the. Now I wasn't trying to promote it at all. But that's one of the primary reasons why adults would not train with me, is because a lot of people want to come in and shower and go to work and so forth. So, and that's definitely, and I would be there all day sweating like a pig and not have any place to clean myself up. So
look, if you have the choice, you could build out showers pretty cheap. I mean,
you don't need, we have 1,500 people a week coming through the gym. And we have one shower in each of the men's and women's bathroom. Now, we have a nice big bathroom with lockers and things like that, but there's only one shower stall, and we really never have any problems. If there's 2 or 3 guys showering in the morning, guys are quick, and the females, there's far less of them showering in the morning. So if there's 1 or 2 girls a day showering, it's usually not a problem. But at least you have something. And again, I think all of our coaches, every one of our coaches showers here at midday. Like when everybody trains, everybody showers. So unless you want your staff to be sweaty, stinky, and gross, you know what I mean? You build in a nice shower in your bathrooms, definitely.
Okay, next question is from Joe, the Bear Killer.
The Bic, you know, you doing? Hey, Andrew Trimbetti, what's up?
Okay, so here it is. This is more or less training related, which is pretty cool. So he says, "Hey guys, my old football coach reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing a presentation for the team. He's having a hard time getting most of his players to utilize the weight room. It's a small school, 400 students, 9th to 12th grade. I have carte blanche to decide what to cover and how. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what to cover. Thanks, Joe."
Big Joe. Big Joe looking good, by the way, dude. I've been following your gram since I met you, and you've gotten yourself in some serious shape over the last few months,
body.
dude. Yeah, the Maximus body. And he's still, you know, I see him eating the burgers.
The Meat Locker. He's Meat Locker official, man.
Big Frank. All right, so what I would say, and I know that you went over this a little bit with Dan, and no question is, you know, in a situation like that where you're far away and you're not actually going to, you know, is build it on the coaches. You know, go there to coach the coaches and get the coaches together, teach them the basics of strength and conditioning, weight room etiquette, and so forth. Build them out a template that they can follow. Cover some of the basics. Maybe break down, you know, the squat, bench, deadlift. You know, a lot of football teams are hung up on the Olympic lift. So if that's the case, if they really want that, then maybe teach them how to do some hang pulls, you know, power pulls and hang cleans and so forth. Overhead press, and keep the, you know, the core exercises, and really review the technical aspect of that, and give them some coaching cueing sheets for them to follow. So I would literally write up a sheet on the squat and break it down in detail, written out, and with all the cueing on there. Then I would coach it to them, and then I would build them out a template. So, and I would probably, since, you know, most high school coaches are going to be at a pretty low level of strength and conditioning knowledge, I would probably just build them out a weekly template. And show them exactly how to plug and play some of the exercises, exercise selection, and things like that. And talk to them about wave undulation and how to rotate exercises properly. Talk to them a little bit about training kids to failure and stuff like that, and why they probably shouldn't be doing those types of things. And just make sure that they understand that less is more when it comes to high school strength and conditioning. When it comes to youth strength and conditioning, and consistency is really the key. It's not about pounding kids to death. It's about consistently stimulating them to get better and better and better. And I think too many coaches go for an all-out PR as opposed to like a 2 or 3 or 5 pound PR. So I think that's one of the big problems we see. We go to me and Dan have been to a lot of high school weight rooms, and we walk in and we're like, oh my, it's some atrocities going on. Like, what do you think, coach? We're crushing them. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stop everything that's happening right now. This is literally Dan and Big Mike. This happened to Dan and Big Mike. They literally walked in the weight room, and I want everybody to stop what they're doing right now. All you coaches, get the fuck out of here, and we will take over. No,
literally, I mean, it literally happened where, you know, Mike and I had been doing some remote programming for a high school, and we were just dropping by for their max out day, and they're okay.
Sorry. I was flexing for Big Joe.
They're I don't even remember what I was going to say. But we had been doing their programming. We went down to coach the coaches, and you know, when we got down there, we went there for max out day just so we would show face and show present, help and help spot their team. And it was just so bad. I mean, that's why, Joe, I would coach the coaches. I would spend as much time with them. I would give them their plan. I would try to drop by for their sessions. But culturally, it's like, look, man, I mean, the reason why they're having trouble getting people to the weight room is because obviously the coaches don't value it. If my head coach was in the weight room every day,
I'd be in the weight room.
I'd be in the weight room every day. But if there's no coaches going there, and I don't know if they've been successful or not, but I'm just going to say they probably haven't been if they haven't been spending a lot of time in the gym.
Correct.
You know, it's just the coaches have to care the most. There has to be somebody on duty there. The training can be so simple yet so effective, but it culturally is from the top down. The coaches have to make it a priority. The seniors have to prioritize it. And then when you get a couple years of that, the young wave of student athletes there, they're going to buy into it, and then you could really start to focus on the true X's and O's of that training program.
I mean, one of the best ways to instill a culture that doesn't exist, one, is to start from the top. You have to coach the coaches, and you have to build a buy-in from the coach, like Dan said, from the head coach all the way down. Two, set up some type of standard board. Just like like you would at our gym, or like they have at Jim Jones, like a weight room standard board. You know, start a 500-pound club, a 750-pound club, a 1,000-pound club. You know, have some strength standards, some physical standards, like even pull-ups, push-ups, bench press, squat, things like that.
You could do shirts, 1,000-pound.
Yeah, 1,000-pound shirt, things like that. You have to. Kids are going to buy into some of that stuff, right? So you want that, and then I would absolutely, you gotta make some type of competition. You have to instill it so that kids are incentivized to make workouts. So one of the great, we have a couple great teams. Obviously, North Jersey's loaded with great football. And some really good teams. And one of the coaches here does a great job, Coach Claus, and he comes to all the workouts. He's always here. He takes attendance, so we take the attendance and we give him the attendance sheets, right? And kids get points throughout the year based on how many workouts they make, right? How many practices they make, whether they do well in practice or workouts. And we give them a list of kids who've made their weights or PR'd and stuff like that, and they get all these extra points.
They get demerits for missing.
If you don't have enough points at the end of the week, you can't wear any swag during the game, right? And to a 14-year-old kid, swag is king, right? So no pink spat, no wristbands, none of that stuff. Or if you don't have enough points through the year, you're not playing, right? So there's some real consequences.
Stickers on the helmet. I mean,
correct.
Everybody wants the most stickers on the helmet. We used to go crazy in high school about that.
Oh my God! You have all we used to get the skull and crossbones for sacks and stuff like that. I would lose my mind. Have a whole helmet full of skull and crossbones. So something like that, Joe, I think would be a really great way to have some type of incentive board, a point system where it's like points for workouts, points for attendance, points for PRs. You make 1,000-pound club, maybe you get some extra points and things like that. So that's a really great way to go about that. All right. Next.
Okay, next question's from Josh B. from Australia. We've gone over this a little bit, and we've answered this question too. You do sound like you're eating the microphone.
I was.
So, tips on developing great employees.
We did a whole podcast on this, so I know Joshua, and you sent me, this is kind of a loose-ended question, but we're using it because I wanted to cover some stuff here. And employees are always one of the hardest parts about a growing business, right? Everything was very easy when I was by myself. I had nobody to answer to. There was no employees to question anything we were doing. I didn't have to worry about whether or not the employee, myself, was passionate or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to worry about
Dino.
my message and all those types of things. What's up, Dino? And so when you start hiring employees, it really does start to come down to leadership. And one of the best advice and one of the best things that I've heard is that there is no such thing as a bad team, only poor leadership. And you have to then start to develop, number one is your core values, your vision, and your gym's mission and your big rocks. What are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you want to be? They have to know exactly who you are, what you're doing, and what the mission is, right? Everybody needs a goal. You have to start with some goal. Second, it comes to accountability. Everybody needs a number. Everybody needs to be accountable for something, right? So, whether it's like Trevor has some specific roles. He's accountable for those things, and we expect those things to get done on a regular basis. And he is also responsible for some of the numbers involved in those processes, so whatever those might be. Just like Mike. Take Big Mike, for example, our head strength and conditioning coach. Big Mike is responsible for all the strength and conditioning in the gym. He meets with the coaches. He meets with the staff. He meets with the employees. He's involved in the programming for all of our adult classes. He oversees all the private training and the programming for all the private training clients, meets with each coach individually to make sure that their plan is where it needs to be and things like that. And he holds everybody accountable. Mike comes to our advisory board meeting every week with all the numbers for the private training and group training for the week. How many members came to class, how many private training sessions that last week, any people who signed out of memberships or dropped memberships, any people who did not come to train, things like that, any injury reports or anything like that. Mike is accountable. Accountability is how you build good employees. If you do everything, they don't have to. Right, and I know if there's any parents out there, right now, I'm a fledgling parent, so I don't have this down pat yet. But you all know that if you do everything for your kid and they don't have to do a damn thing, well, why would they? Right. So same thing with employees. You got to give them role and responsibility. So I'm gonna
elaborate on his question too, just because I left a little bit of it out. He said, How do you know you can really trust someone to uphold your vision and believe in it rather than just tell you that because that's what you want to hear? I've always thought full-time was the way to go because staff were then invested, but lately I've been thinking it might just be easier to get coaches in for a couple hours just as relief and leave the rest to myself. And I'm going to answer this real quickly.
Dr. J.
Look, you have to have some blind faith, and we've talked about our internship program for developing and finding great employees. But as a starting operation, I do believe it can be just you as a technician and having some part-time help. But your part-time help, our part-time help here on the coaching floor is still salary-based. So we might have somebody come in. We've just hired somebody. They work 20 hours a week. They work 4 5-hour shifts. And they understand the expectation of what they're supposed to do. They're going to assist. They're going to break down. They're going to assist with new members. They're going to set up for the next session. And over time, that person, JC, has become the lead on 3 of those 20 hours. And our goal for him by year end is to become the lead on 6 hours of the 20. And eventually, when he's done with school, we'll have that conversation to see, and hopefully he'll eventually want to work here full time. But, you know, that's the ultimate goal. And Josh, I think where your business is at right now is that I think it would be much more beneficial for you to find somebody to work part-time that's still salary-based as opposed to having 4 or 5 different coaches that come in and are paid per session, because they're truly never invested into what you're doing. They're coming, they're hitting their session, and then they're out of here, and they might be working at 3 different gyms. I'd rather have one person that was totally committed to our brand and knows, like, hey, you know what? Like, you might have to lose a little bit of money on the front side because they might not be the lead on the session hour. They might just be, you know, cleaning up the front desk, sweeping out the gym, vacuuming the gym, but it alleviates and gives you some time back to do the things that you know, your gym needs from you.
Yeah, I mean, if you never take the plunge and try to bring somebody up to a level that's going to be a real employee, and by real employee, I mean they're going to get it in all facets. They're either going to live your brand.
That takes
they're
years.
A company guy. You know what I mean? They believe in what you're doing. They believe in your mission, and they help to foster and spread the mission to the rest of the employees and or community, right? That takes a long time to get that. But if you never try, you're never going to get there. And then you're always going to be the focal point. You're always going to be the guy that has to do everything, right? And that was me when I was by myself. And then when it was me and Dan, it was like, oh my God, thank God I got somebody else. Like, you know, and right off the bat, when me and Dan partnered up, it was like, there was a whole bunch of people that just called Dan. I was like, sweet, I don't have to deal with those people anymore, right? And then Dan had his own group of people that he would deal with. And then Big Mike, same thing. When Big Mike came in with us, it's like, great, now I could offload some stuff to Big Mike. So, and we started building a team. Having real employees and full-time employees is about building a team. Part-timers can be part of that team, but they're never going to be a Dan. Yeah. They're never going to be a Trevor. You know, it's just the way it is.
Josh, it's either you're running the gym or the gym's going to run you. And if you don't have a team in place, I don't care if they're part-timers, eventually there will be a burnout. There will be a time where you're just like, I can't be all these things, and that's when you're going to be in trouble if you don't make some moves to hire on some good part-time or full-time team members.
Yeah, the only time that works is if you're just not really looking to make a lot of money. You know, you know what I mean? And again, there are some people out there that just want to, like, I just want to do, you know, 15, 20 sessions a week. I got a little tiny studio. I'm going to make my $50,000. That's perfect. That's fine. And maybe you have 1 or 2 people that work there part-time. That's great. If you want to run a real business and you want to make real money and you want to open up, you want to be a mogul, a strength entrepreneur, whatever it might be, you're going to have to hire some real people.
Okay, the last question I have is from Dustin. Dustin is from Iowa?
Dustin, I'm sorry that I don't have it right in front of me. I want to say it's Ohio, but I could be wrong.
Or Michigan.
Crapola. Might be
it's
Michigan.
Over there.
Somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay,
out in the middle of nowhere. Dustin Branchow.
Right. He says, if you were to build Varsity House again, what would you do differently, and what is a realistic budget for a gym like Varsity House?
$60 million. No. So what would we do differently? Well, other than the turf, because we've highly vocalized our displeasure with the turf company. And Turf Warehouse, do not ever buy from them. Okay, sorry, Turf Warehouse. But they were...
I'm not sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. They were piss poor customer service. So buyer beware. What you get what you pay for is what you get, you know, with the turf business. So generally speaking, we've gone all over the world looking for turf, and it always came back to 2 or 3 of the better products out there. And yes, they cost more, but they also guarantee the work and labor for much longer.
We're getting some new sick turf for this winter. Open enrollment. Stay tuned.
Big swaggy T-head right in the middle of the turf.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
So, but what would I do differently? I would probably have, you know, had a lot more structure. You know, most of what I would do differently is on the business side of things, and we spent a lot of time planning the facility, and I think the layout of the facility is great. And I love what we have. I wish we had a little bit more storage space. I think a lot of gyms forget that you need storage space. We don't have a lot here, and we've had to like makeshift storage space. We like stuff on top of everything and things like that.
Office space too.
Office space is critical. You might not think that I don't want to spend any damn money on office space, but if you're at our level where you got a 20,000 square foot facility and you have 24 employees. You got to have something. Yeah, where do they go? You got to have something.
If you want them to work, on other processes besides the gym floor, I know it sounds ridiculous, but you can't just put a desk on the middle of the turf.
No, like Mike needs a place to do some work. Adam needs a place to do some work. Sarge needs a place to write his programs. I mean, that's just the way it is. Trevor has his own office, and Trevor's working in his own office all day, working on the back end stuff. So you have to have a place to do work. So offices. And like I don't want to say like a little employee lounge, but like an area where you can have a microwave, a refrigerator, things like that, and make sure you have that stuff. We have unfortunately had to like we're doing the podcast in our conference room, which also happens to be like the employee lounge. So while we do our podcast, we have to kick everybody out. Nobody can come in here. So there is some logistical issues with that.
I was dead against doing a smoothie bar too. Yeah, I would definitely. Obviously rescind my comments on that, but I love that added element. And if we could do it again, and when we do it again in the gym, I would build it bigger with more light and make it more conducive for people to sit, hang out, and just spend more time at the gym.
Yeah, and I think like on that note too, just you mentioned the smoothie bar and we mentioned the turf too, is that you don't have to buy a lot of stuff, but when you're buying something, spend the money and get the right thing. Like we had a blender, which was good, and we spent a lot of money on it, but we should have gotten the better one.
Yes, I bought a Blendtec blender. No offense to Blendtec, but I bought one of their like more reasonable models, and it was like $600, and it putzed out in a year. So I wasted $600, and then had to go buy a soup deluxe. What do we got? The Vitamix now? Yeah. We got the Soup Deluxe Vitamix, which was $1,500. So now I actually spent $2,100.
Same thing with the turf. We spent double on the turf.
Right. I spent $30,000 on the indoor turf. Now I'm spending another $30,000.
We've been here for 3 years and 2 months, and we're already on to turf number 2.
Makes me very upset. So, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, but the new turf is going to be unbelievable, and it's gonna be sick, and it's guaranteed to last 7 years. So it's just 7 years. So
guaranteed.
Guaranteed. So that's something I would do differently. What else, Dan? What else? I wish we had a little bit more hammer strength equipment. That's something down the road. As an OG, weightlifter. I wish I had a little bit more of kind of like old school like barbell club type equipment as opposed to just barbells and weights. I wish I had maybe some West Side barbell equipment and some hammer strength stuff.
You know what I would do right from the get go also is now.
Don't tell me that tread sled thing you wanted. That was like $9,000.
No. It has nothing to do with equipment. I'm saying all of the swag that we have around the gym now.
Oh yeah,
we have our company ethos. Yes. We have posters of some of our best athletes. And some of our best clients on the wall. I would do that right from the get-go. Having those clients and those people featured around the gym, people love
nothing builds community better than seeing the community all around the gym.
Right from the get-go.
I would, you're right 100% on that. Dan's right. I would have cut out, 2 or 3, rowers, 2 or 3, bikes, and saved a couple grand to outfit the gym right from the
whatever
get-go.
Your budget is for swag and wow.
Double
usually for people it's zero. it's just equipment and zero on the swag, I would definitely factor in at least a little bit. Does it matter in terms of how you're training people? No, but if you're trying to make a living by being a strength entrepreneur, those things matter to your client.
Yeah, but I don't think like you do have to set some aside. But like in our instance, and gym owners do not copy this. We got like a 30-foot wide American flag, and we hung it up right in the middle of the gym. So as soon as you walk into the gym, that's what you see, and it was like a statement. And we didn't spend a ton of money on it.
No. I mean, look, you can go low budget on a lot of stuff. You don't have to go buck wild. I mean, we're very lucky that we have Mr. Trevor Wang, and Trevor designs most of the stuff here in the gym. And we're also very lucky that we've had some really great clients like Dave Passante, and who's helped us out tremendously with our printing and stuff like that. And we were able to barter with some clients, where we trained his son and stuff like that. And Chris was a great client for years. So it was
Go
Roadie, baby. And it was a great relationship there. And Dave's helped us out tremendously. And when people come in and they see the gym, they're like, wow, man, the gym looks awesome. I always send Dave a text, like, yo, man, gym looks awesome. Really, thanks so much. Thanks for being part of the family. So, if you have somebody like that in your community, definitely use it. But otherwise, budget smart. Get that swag up. People love the swag. The clients, the general population clients, are going to respond way more to seeing swag and seeing a outfitted gym that looks awesome as opposed to getting another air bike. Ain't nobody want those damn air bikes anyway.
What do you got over there?
What do I got over there? We got contemporary athlete swag. Tells everybody about the quality of your coaching. Love it. Got that. Yeah, thank you, contemporary athlete. Where you from, bro? Where's contemporary athlete? Where you from, man? And I'll see if he responds there. So that is basically, I think that's it. Is that all the questions?
Yeah, I think that's the shortest podcast we've done, so we're definitely getting better at this, guys.
If you got any more questions, we'll take like a minute. If anybody wants to just put it in, okay? So we'll try and answer it. I know that a lot of people, and there's a million more questions, and a lot of stuff goes to the back end. I'll kind of wrap up with this, right? Building out a gym and training people is easy, right? And I don't mean that. I'm not saying that light because I know it's it's not as simple as that. But training people is the hardest part. I mean the easiest part. Running the business becomes the hardest part, and managing all the personalities, not only with your clients but with your staff and stuff, becomes the hardest part. So no matter what, where all your Clinton Park, New York, baby, north of Albany. Oh, what's up? We got a bunch of Albany alums here and a bunch of upstate New York guys coming down here, and So what I would say is, spend a lot more time on the back end of the business, on creating your employee handbook, even if it's a page.
Assuming you're a good coach.
Assuming you're a good coach.
You got to be a good coach.
Yeah. But at some point, if your goal is to be a gym owner and your goal is to run a gym business, yes, your coaching has to be at a certain level. But we know plenty of gym owners who aren't, let's call it elite level coaches, who are very successful and hire really good coaches and have great programs. You don't need, if you're just training general population, you don't have to be the best coach in the world.
They're also elite level personalities.
Oh yeah, sure. Some of them are, but I was work on the back end more than anything. You got to get your vision, traction, organization. You have to have an employee handbook. You have to have an HR system. You have to You have to have a hiring process, a firing process, a developmental process for employees. Those things have to be written down. We took years to get all that stuff done, and it held us up for years. Now, we didn't know. We started a long time ago before there was a lot of box gyms doing real business, right? It was us. Back then, it was like us against the world. There was this little thing called CrossFit that was just barely getting off the ground, and there was a couple of shitty warehouse gyms like mine that were out there, right? And the only real competition was there was no real competition in that space. All that was out there was those big health clubs, right? And that was the anti, box gym. We didn't want to be anything like that. So the best advice is to get the back end done up first. Oh, here you go, Marcus. What's up, Mark? How we doing, buddy? How would you decide to be an owner and not just a trainer, other than just waiting to work or wanting to work for yourself? So. I don't know. Like for me, it's just my entrepreneurial spirit. When I was a little kid, I had a paper route. My mom, I started mowing lawns for a lady down the street, and she would pay me $25. I said, well, $25 every other week, right? It's $50 a month. In 10 months, I can buy a really awesome lawnmower and leaf blower, and I'll mow X amount of lawns. And that's just how my brain was wired. So at 13 years old, I saved up a bunch of money. My mom helped me buy a lawnmower and a leaf blower, and I went around the neighborhood with a rake and a leaf blower and mowed like 10 lawns in a week, every like couple times a month, and made money. So, and I know Dan's father's in business for himself. Dan's always had a want to be his own boss. So the entrepreneurial spirit kind of has to be there too, right?
But there's nothing wrong with being a trainer in a great gym that gives you the opportunity to be creative. I think people, everybody believes that you need to be a gym owner to be a successful strength entrepreneur. That is not the truth. You can be a very successful strength coach and really strength entrepreneur in somebody else's facility. You could be very creative, and there's things that you can do and create a career for yourself that's something to be proud of.
And now, Marcus, I'll tell you, nowadays with the internet and the World Wide Web, as your a case in point example right now, watching us live on Facebook, is that you can sell products anywhere in the world. So your reach as a fitness professional is really only limited by the limitations in creativity you place on yourself. So, like we encourage all of our guys here that work for us to be creative, to create programs, to write stuff, get stuff out to the world, get stuff out to the internet, position yourself as a great strength coach. I want people calling the gym, asking Big Mike for online coaching, for remote coaching, online programs, things like that. I want Mike to be able, and it's a great way, segue, if this was a second question, to incentivize your employees to make more money is by having them create products and giving them a piece of it too. You know what I mean? So again, if we produce a product and we're going to sell that product for $50, maybe Mike created the program. Hey, we'll split it with you. Now Mike gets $25 for every program we sell. So that's a great way for Mike to make more money, right? And from a payroll perspective, I don't have to kill. It's not like I'm giving Mike another $1,000 a week. It's like, hey, if this product sells, you're going to make X. And it's a great bonus structure for employees, and we do it with everybody here. So if you create something that hits, or you bring something to the table that's a big hit, we're gonna make sure it's worth your while. So I hope that answers your question there, Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus.
Anybody else over here? I think that wraps it up for today, gang. So I hope we answered a bunch of your questions as clear as possible. Obviously, you could always contact with me and Dan anytime via our Facebook page for varsityhousegym.com. Dan has his own. I do not, at Dan Goodman. We're both on Instagram, Coach Joe Strong, Dan _ Goodman 78 on Instagram, Varsity House Gym on Instagram. You can email us at info@varsityhousegym.com if you're interested in any way, shape, or form about turning your passion into a profession or attending one of our Business of Strength mentorships. You can hit us up or check out our website at www.strengthentrepreneurs.com. And we have all the information on there. We have some great downloadable products like our Ultimate Onboard Kit. And we're really, really working hard this year and to help as many strength entrepreneurs as we can. 2018 is going to be a huge year. We got a whole bunch of new dates coming out for 2018 for our mentorship series. We're taking it. We got December 7th and 8th here coming up soon in here at Varsity House, and seats are selling fast. And January at Reach Fitness in London, we're taking it to the UK. So if you're out in Europe or you're coming to Europe for a trip, you want to take an awesome trip to London and just kick ass and come hang out with us and train and learn and just get to see the city of London. There's still some seats available for that.
Six left for that.
Six seats left for.
We are limited there because it's not our gym. We're going to be at Reach Fitness.
Yeah, we got a limited amount of space, so we got six seats left, and that's January 13th and 14th. That's going to be a Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have an FYF workout on Friday. We're just going to have a blast. We're going to be going out to dinner. We're going to go doing a pub crawl, baby.
Team Money's going to be filming the whole thing, so it's going to get real wild.
It's Swaggy T's birthday.
The sizzle reel is going to be out of control.
Yeah. Oh, man, we're bringing the money gun. We're going to be shooting dollar bills into the sky, so it's going to be a blast. So, again, that's December 7th and 8th here at Varsity House, January 13th and 14th at Reach Fitness in London. We got dates coming up in March. We got dates coming up in August. We got dates going in September and next December. Let's go get on it. Turn your passion into a profession. We will see you next time, gang. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Peace out, guys.
The Business of Strength, powered by Varsity House Gym. Turn your passion into your profession and learn how to run a world-class business. Be sure to visit us at www.strengthentrepreneurs.com to learn more. And as always, at varsityhousegym.com. Become unstoppable.